Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I'm your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim Matthews. So, Tim, today I'm going to throw onto the table a topic that has come up several times in the Powerful Man movement. And this is a topic around alcohol and our relationship to alcohol as men, which I think is a completely individual relationship. So I'm going to give a disclaimer. Tim and I are not specialists in rehabilitation and alcohol therapy or any of that stuff. We've read a lot about it. We've studied a lot. We've talked to a lot of professionals, and we've helped a lot of men with these issues. And so we're not going to talk about today necessarily alcoholism or things like that. But this is for, we're all going to say is the average guy, Tim, the average guy. And the average guy that needs a little wake up call and needs to, or gets to, re-examine his relationship with alcohol. Now, we recently had a man involved in the movement, guy in the Brotherhood, great guy. And I won't say his name, but long story, a little short, he was doing well, really doing well in his relationship and all of his other areas. And then he and his wife go out on a date night, and they go with another couple. And they're out at a concert, and a lot of people out there, an outdoor venue. And one drink turns to two turns to three to four, et cetera. We've all been there. And he has too much to drink. And not only is he obviously drunk, but on the car ride home, he berates his wife in front of others. And she has said, this has happened previously before. And she said previously before, I will never be treated like this again. And here he is falling back into that same pattern. And he made a comment like, hey, maybe this is time for me to re-examine my relationship with alcohol. Now, I've been there too. Where I've gotten too drunk and I've said things to my wife that just aren't appropriate, things that she doesn't appreciate, made a little bit of an ass out of myself. And I realized the thing that we always say, is this a pattern? Has it happened more than once? Is it a pattern? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, and you guys all know if it is or not, is it serving you to your highest good? Yes or no? And then if the answer is no, then it's time to make a change. And that change doesn't mean you have to quit drinking. That change just means it's time to re-examine your relationship with alcohol. Why are you drinking? What are you getting out of it? Is it serving you, or are you serving it coming through? We've had a lot of men in through the movement. And the reason I bring this up is a lot of guys are squirming listening to this right now. I can guarantee it. Because they're like, oh, it's a stigma that's placed upon drinking too much, right? People immediately label you an alcoholic or immediately label something's wrong with you. And I don't believe that to be the case, guys. I don't believe that to be the case at all. What I do think happens is we as men try to use alcohol for other reasons, right? You get dopamine when you get that little buzz. Let's face it, that buzz is fun. Tim, you and I were talking about it off air a little bit as you get that buzz. Here I was in New England visiting my in-laws, and I was like, I'll have a glass of wine, a whiskey, and a cider. And if you got a beer, I'll take that too. Just because I was, quite honestly, I was a little bored. I was just trying to sit around and hang out, and I just wasn't in my zone. And that's when I made a decision like, wait, why am I doing this? Is this serving me to my highest good? And the answer was no. Right. So I quit. I just stopped doing that behavior. So, Tim, when you look at this and you look back through the men, not necessarily your own stories, but, we've created a group in January. We did a 30-day sobriety challenge. I don't even call it a challenge. It was more of a support group of men. And a lot of guys raised their hands and came in. And out of all the guys that went through these powerful men, only a few guys actually finished the full 30 days. There was always an excuse. Well, my friend came into town. There was a party. I made it 2 weeks. It's not an issue for me. Very few guys made it for 30 days, which is such a short period of time. And I get it, right? I've done these 30-day sobriety challenges. I used to do 30 days, no alcohol, no caffeine every year. To be honest, the caffeine one scares me. The alcohol one doesn't scare me at all. But I used to do this as a reset to make sure I wasn't addicted or wasn't controlling me in my life. And what I find is every time I do those challenges, there's always good reasons to drink. There's always a celebration to be had. There's always a friend that wants to have a beer and talk. Or there's always somebody that brings over a bottle of really great whiskey that I've been dying to try to share during that time. But this is where we as men get to decide our relationship. And this sends a message not only to ourselves, but to everybody else around us. So for this month coming up, and I'm already a few days into it, as I told my wife, she offered me a glass of wine. I said, I'm not drinking. I'm not drinking till the end of October. I'm going to take, which is more than a month. So it's like 35 days for me or whatever. So yeah, I'm just not going to. And I have family coming into town. My family's a big wine family. Like lots of great wine is passed around. We have a great time with it, but I'm not going to partake. And we got this festival here in Oregon. We have beer festivals and things. They're so fun to go to. And there's so many amazing beers. And I may go, but I'm not going to partake. And the reason is it's time for me to re-examine my relationship with alcohol, just to make sure as a check and balance that I'm on the right path. Just like these men in the movement, just like maybe you listening to this, we wonder why. We wake up in the morning and the 6 a.m. version of ourselves is like, not drinking anymore. I feel like crap, a little dehydrated, mouth is dry, just not on top of my game. So tonight, I'm just not going to drink. And then 4, 5, 6 p.m. comes around. That other version comes out. We feel good. It's like, you know what? I closed that deal. Or I'm really tired. The kids have been a pain in the ass. One scotch, one martini. No big deal. I'm out with clients about having a good time. It's not going to hurt anything. I'll just keep it easy. And then the next morning, we wake up and the 6 a.m. version of ourselves goes, shit. All right. I said I wasn't drinking, but I get it. The clients were here. I'm not going to drink tonight. Got it. I'm going to do this. We have these great plans. And again, the 5 p.m., 6 p.m. version of ourselves comes out and we open a bottle of wine. We crack a beer. It's just a beer, right? No big deal. And sometimes these things turn into extremes, like often a lot of things in our lives do. Like this gentleman who went to an outdoor concert and had a few too many drinks, right? Because it takes a while for the alcohol to catch up to us, especially in a social situation. We feel great until we don't. We feel in control until we don't. And that's where the problems occur. In the meanwhile, our wife is looking at us, our kids are watching us, and we're not the best version of ourselves. Heck, we're not even really enjoying ourselves, or we don't know if we're enjoying ourselves. We think we are. But when we're that far gone, we don't really know. We don't know what's going on. And what's happening is we're being controlled by brain chemicals. The alcohol is producing is releasing dopamine, serotonin, these other brain chemicals out there that are fueling us and encouraging us to do more. And it's a cycle. And, you often hear, right, guys, it's easy not to drink. It's hard just to have one beer. Just one. Hey, I'm going to go out with the guys for the night. I'm going to have one drink. One beer. One beer turns into two turns into three turns into four, and the night carries on. So guys, when is it a time to reevaluate your relationship with alcohol? I think right now for all of you. And maybe that's a short evaluation because you don't drink. And you can ask yourself, why don't I drink? Why do I choose not to? What are my choices? And just reaffirm them if you want to. And again, I'm not saying I'm not going to drink again. I enjoy it. I enjoy the buzz. I enjoy wine. I enjoy really good whiskey. Enjoy good beer. But you also got to make sure what it's costing you and do a cost analysis, just like you would in business. Is this worth it for me? Am I getting the health benefits I want? Maybe you're just having a vodka soda because it's the least amount of calories. You're still looking at about 100 to 200 additional calories in your diet. Right? So you have 2 of those a night. Let's call it 400 calories. Multiply that by 7. You're almost putting on an additional pound of fat every week. Just with that additional caloric intake, assuming all things are the same. Over a week, over a month, over a year, that adds up pretty quickly. That just means you have to work out hard in the gym. You have to forego some other nutritious or healthy foods, or you have to forego dessert, right? And we've had several other guys. We had a guy, this guy I love. This guy wrecked his car coming home one night. Wasn't drinking, wasn't doing anything stupid. And one night he went out and decided, you know what? He had a few too many IPAs. And on the way home, crashed his car. Luckily, no one was hurt. He wasn't hurt. He was able to pull it off. But wow, did he like look at this and go, this is a wake-up call for me. I could have hurt somebody. I could have killed somebody. How would that change his life? Locked up, or a DUI even, just pulled over. In the United States, a DUI is going to cost you 10 grand. You're going to lose your license, most likely. I'm not a lawyer, but this is what I've seen people go through. You know, what are people going to think when all of a sudden you're riding your mountain bike on the way to the store rather than driving in a car? Oh, Phil's just getting healthy. No, he's not. He's riding a Huffy. Phil doesn't ride mountain bikes. Phil's forced to because Phil got a DUI. And obviously, in a lot of places, a DUI, I'm not making any judgments about anybody that's gotten one. I certainly have deserved more than my fair share. I just haven't gotten one. Right? But you get the point. The point is, when's your wake-up call? When's your chance to give it a shot?
Yeah, I think for me, like you said, the word relationship is really key here, especially for the men that we work with typically. You know, I don't think there's any I'm gonna say I don't think there's any alcohol dependence per se, but at the same time, I think it's very easy to slip into rituals and routines in your life where you don't realize that the dependence then comes in. I remember a time when I was in Italy. I've told this story many times, and staying on this mine and Amelia's first time there. Obviously, very excited, loving it, and time zone was I think the 2 hours later than the UK, so I was finishing work a couple of hours later as well. And we'd walk down to the bottom of the street where we're living, this great little Italian place, you know, tiny little family-run restaurant. And you'd walk in, and everyone's talking Italian, and just the whole environment and atmosphere was even that was exciting enough. And then combine that with, you know, being a bit tired as well from finishing work. They come over, hey, do you want a beer? Beer sounds great. And then they go and pull this glass out from the freezer. This great tall beer glass, and they fill it and bring it over. And oh my God, when that glass touched my lips and the beer just I went down so good, those feelings of tiredness, they went away. It was like instant refreshment.
Yep.
It was amazing. So what did I do the following night? I only had one beer that night. You know, it was a big beer. They served quite big beers at that restaurant, bigger than a pint. Following night, we went back. Feelings of tiredness went away. I'll do the next night. Went back. Feelings of tiredness went away. And then I found myself when it got to about 4 p.m. I'm thinking, oh, yeah, I can't wait to go to that restaurant for that beer. And I'm like, holy crap, that beer's got a hold of me. And it wasn't necessarily the beer per se, it was the ritual around the beer. It was a ritual that I began to crave.
Sure.
And I loved it. I loved it. So, you know, as you examine your relationship with alcohol, you know, look at that. What is it? Is there a ritual that you may be creating and it involves the alcohol? Like you said, Doug, at the beginning, hey, I was drinking too much in New Hampshire. I was doing it because I was just bored. You know, the emotion there to get out of is boredom, and the vehicle is just the alcohol because it's there and it's social and everyone's there and he wants to stay with the in-laws and be social, and you know, that's one of the choices, right? So when you realize what you are getting from the ritual and from the alcohol, you can then start to find other ways potentially to either arrive at the same place, or if they just don't cut it, then you might have to change your ritual altogether. For me in Italy, once I realized this, I started to then throw in a cold shower at the end of my workday. It's great. Felt a similar refreshment like I did after the big beer. Um, Honestly, wasn't as enjoyable, but definitely felt that same level of refreshment. The tiredness went away, and alongside that, made a decision. Hey, this beer's got a hold of me. This isn't a standard that I'm okay with. Um, but having that awareness and allowing yourself to remove the stigma that goes with it can really help.
It doesn't. There's been some great research on this and topics about this. And a lot of it's about, you know, really drinking comes from pain, right? And solving that pain and getting to the root of that issue, whatever that issue may be. We're not talking about that, but we're talking more about when you get into dependency. And I don't want to touch on this too much because we're getting a little further away from the topic that I want to gloss over here. Really, the message I want to get home to the guys is, what is your relationship with alcohol? And I'm going to guess, Tim, 50% of the guys listening to this have been in the last 6 months a predicament where they've done embarrassing stuff or drank too much that they're not proud of. That's just a guess. And if that's true for you guys, as it is for me, if that's true for you, this is a great time to re-examine your relationship with alcohol, right? Just check it. Take 30 days off. During that 30 days, though, do an examination, see what comes up for you. Last night I was exhausted. Oh, man. So got a little jet lagged. I was back in New England, which is a 3-hour time difference from the West Coast for a month. And just, the kids weren't sleeping well, et cetera, et cetera. I was exhausted. And I turned to my wife. I said, man, I go, what's interesting? I didn't say man to her, but I go, do you know what's interesting? Is right now I'm so tired that all I want is a glass of wine just to settle my mind, just to sedate me a little bit. I said, how interesting is that? Like that is that's my immediate go-to is to pour just a beautiful glass. And I could just picture the taste, right? Beautiful. And I was picturing a Cabernet, right? A beautiful glass of wine. And I thought, wow, isn't that interesting that I'm tired, pretty much exhausted. I still get to parent for another hour, I think at the time. And all I want is just to pour a big friggin' glass of wine and just chill out. My wife was like, oh, me too. I was like, yep, that's exactly why we're not going to do it. And, it was just an interesting examination into problem solving. I have a problem. I'm tired. I have a problem. Kids are going nuts and we just want to sleep tonight. I just want to chill out with my wife, maybe watch a little Netflix or something, nothing super crazy, and have a big fucking glass of wine. Not a regular sized glass of wine, by the way, a big fucking glass of wine. And just chill out and just enjoy it, enjoy the taste and enjoy the show, enjoy the company. And just really interesting. So I substitute that with bubbly water or, flavored water, sparkling water. And almost as good. Almost as good. Not quite. I'm not gonna lie, but definitely good enough, and definitely without any regrets the next day. But just interesting to examine the relationship and how it comes up, and how prevalent alcohol. The two biggest drugs in our culture, Western society, are caffeine and alcohol. Caffeine's not looked down on. If I would have poured a cup of coffee, my wife would have been like, "What are you doing?" But it wouldn't have been. She wouldn't have looked down on me for doing it. At the same time, if I would have poured a glass of really good tequila in a snifter or whatever, she would be like, wait, you said you're not going to drink? Or there's a point I'm getting at is alcohol has got this stigma around it because people do dumb shit. People don't do dumb stuff on caffeine usually. They do it faster, but not to the gross levels. So guys, gentlemen, I'm going to encourage you. It's a little different twist, but I see this a lot because it's going to affect your relationships. All right. Who are you when you drink? Who are you when you drink too much? And maybe you want to ask the people around you. Say, hey, look, I heard this crazy guy on this podcast or these crazy two guys. And they were examining their relationship with alcohol, and they gave us a challenge. They said, ask the 5 people closest to us, what am I like when I drink? What are the goods and the bads? And get some feedback. And if you don't want to do that, I get it. But then sit down and journal what is your relationship with alcohol? And if you want to join me and a number of other guys and take a month off. In fact, take this month off. Here it is, October, by the time this is released. Take the month of October up. We're leading up into the holidays, so I'm not going to make you. I've done this before over Thanksgiving and Christmas. And yes, that's tougher. And I'm one of those people that's kind of masochistic in that way. But really wait and take the time now. Just see what happens. And if you don't make the 30 days, that's telling. Yes, something is going to come up. Abso-friggin-lutely it will. There's going to be a great reason for you to have a glass of wine, a beer, a martini, whatever it is. 30 days. 30 days. Can you make it? Right? Not only can you make it, but can you thrive? Can you thrive with this challenge? Gentlemen, as always, in a moment of insight, take massive action. Don't just go on to another podcast. No educational masturbation here. Actually take action on these things if you get an insight and going through. And we'll see you next time here on the Powerful Man Show.